It was about 7 years ago. Elsa and I were in Colorado at one of these conferences and wound up at a dinner where I was seated next to Al Gore, the former vice president. Now, sitting next to Al Gore at dinner, let's be honest, it's unpleasant. And if you know anything about Gore's biography, before he went into politics, he was a journalist and practiced journalism. And it turns out he thinks he invented that also. So we're sitting there, and I had written 2 of the 4 Bush books, and he started grinding on me about the books. Said, you know, why don't you come out against Bush in the Iraq War? And I said, look, I'm just trying to find out what happened. He said, oh, horse shit. Actually, it was more than that. And he said, I remember the Watergate stories. You and Carl Bernstein wrote those. You came out against Nixon and the crimes of Watergate. And I said, no, actually, those were, we tried to stick to the facts. And he said, look, Buster, I read those stories. I said, I wrote those stories. Not necessarily a man of self-doubt. Didn't move the needle for Gore at all. He had read them. And anyway, we got to a much more interesting subject, which was at the core of journalism. How much do we know about what really goes on? And something we report, you know, it's true. You get up in the morning and you wonder what you don't know and what's being hidden. And so I just asked, said, you were there for 8 years in the Clinton presidency, in the West Wing, and now it's 5 years after. There have been endless coverage, the Whitewater scandal, the Lewinsky scandal, all kinds of books. I'd written some of them. Marinus had, you know, all kinds of people had written about it. So what percentage of what is significant or interesting do we now know? And he said, 1%. Well, of course, I died, and I have to confess to having an unclean thought. Because when he said 1%, I immediately thought, is it possible there are that many women we don't know about? Could be a big number. And then I just asked, well, suppose you wrote a tell-all memoir, and in he got on his high horse. I'd never write a tell-all memoir. Suppose you did. Then how much would we know about what went on that's interesting or of consequence? And he said, 2%. Now that's just Gore being Gore, but the interesting thing, what you have to do is develop a method, have the luxury and the patience, which I thank the Washington Post for, to really try to dig into things, and you need to be at the right place at the right time.